You are a conscious creator. You practice gratitude, you visualize abundance, you work hard on your craft. And yet, you remain stuck in a reality of not enough. You feel a constant, low-grade pressure, a sense of obligation that drains the joy from your work and keeps your dreams at a frustrating distance. You don't know it, but your entire reality is being held hostage by a single, insidious word. It is a word that sounds responsible. It sounds noble. It sounds like spiritual work. But it is, in fact, the most powerful abundance block in the universe. This story will reveal that word. It will expose it as a trap. And it will give you its powerful replacement, a word that will shift you from a state of obligation to a state of sovereignty, and finally allow the flow of abundance you so deeply deserve. Elena was a guardian of stories. At 34, she was one of the most gifted book restorers in Florence, a woman whose hands held a deep, intuitive conversation with paper, leather, and ink. Her small workshop, tucked away in a quiet alley of the Oltrarno district, was a sanctuary of forgotten histories. Her work was her passion, her art, and her deepest form of expression. It was also the source of her greatest and most persistent pain. She was brilliant, but she was broke. Her most sacred and all-consuming desire was to transform her small, struggling workshop into La Legatoria d'Oro, the Golden Bindery, a world-renowned studio and gallery. She dreamed of a space where she would not just repair the past, but create new, breathtaking works of art, bespoke bindings for collectors, custom journals for writers, a place that was a testament to the beauty and value of a timeless craft. She dreamed of a life of creative freedom and graceful, abundant flow. But her reality was a cage built from a single powerful word, should. This was her antagonist, a subtle, relentless, and virtuous-sounding mindset of obligation. The word, should, was the silent, tyrannical ruler of her every decision. I should be more practical. I should use cheaper materials to save money. I should be grateful for the small, low-paying jobs I get. I should get a stable, full-time job at a museum archive. I should stop dreaming so big. Each should was a brick in the wall separating her from the abundance she craved. It was a word that always pointed to a perceived lack in her present moment, a constant reminder that she was not yet good enough, not yet worthy, not yet safe. Her gratitude practice felt fake because it was always followed by a should that contradicted it. Is she doomed to be a prisoner of this responsible-sounding word, her dreams slowly suffocating under the weight of her own obligations? Or is there a different word, a key that can unlock the cage and transform her from a servant of her circumstances into the sovereign of her own reality? If you have ever felt the heavy weight of what you should be doing, and you feel it is blocking your own joyful creation, subscribe. This story contains the key to your freedom. Part 1. The shoulds finally brought Elena to a breaking point. The previous loop closed, she had identified the tyranny of her inner obligation. The new loop opened on a gray Tuesday morning. She was working on a beautiful but damaged 18th-century botany text for a client. Her mind was a hornet's nest of shoulds. I should be working faster. I should be charging more, but I can't. I should be using this less expensive gold leaf to protect my margins. She followed the last should. In a moment of distraction, born from the anxious, divided energy the word created, her hand slipped. The tool skittered across the delicate leather binding, leaving a deep, irreparable scratch. The mistake was a catastrophe. The book was a valuable commission. The cost of the repair, which would now require a master's touch far beyond her own, would wipe out her earnings for the month. The failure was absolute, a direct, physical manifestation of the poverty consciousness that her shoulds had created. Shaking, on the verge of tears, she packed the damaged book into a velvet-lined box and did the one thing she could think of. She went to seek the help of a ghost. The ghost was a man named Marco Bellini, a legendary Florentine leather artisan who had officially retired years ago. He was a master of the old ways, a man whose work was in museums. His workshop, in a hidden courtyard near the Pitti Palace, was a place that time had forgotten. She found him there, a man in his late 80s with hands that looked like the gnarled roots of an ancient olive tree, meticulously tooling a piece of leather. The air smelled of beeswax, old leather, and a profound, unhurried peace. Elena, her voice trembling, showed him the damaged book and confessed her mistake, her reason for using the cheaper materials. She expected a lecture on her foolishness. Instead, Marco looked at her, his eyes the color of aged whiskey, and he saw not her mistake, but the shape of her cage. "You did not scratch this book, my dear," he said, his voice a low, resonant baritone. "The word did. It is a very clumsy and anxious word. It does not belong in a creator's workshop. It is the word of a servant, not a master." The directness of his diagnosis stunned her. "But how do I live without it?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "It is how I know what to do. It is how I try to be responsible." "Ah," Marco said, a slow, compassionate smile spreading across his face. "You believe the word is a compass that points you towards safety. But it is not a compass. It is an anchor. It holds you in the one place abundance cannot exist, in a future where you are finally good enough, and a past that you are always trying to fix." "Abundance," he said, picking up a beautiful, sharp, and perfectly balanced tooling knife, "lives only in the present moment. And in the present moment, there is no should. There is only choice." He then gave her a task. "Leave the book with me," he said. "I will see what can be done. Your task is to go home. For 1 week, your only work is to notice. Notice every single time you use that word, in your mind or out loud. Do not try to change it. Do not judge it. Simply notice it. Become a detective of your own inner obligation." She has found a master who understands the deep, energetic grammar of creation. He has identified the poison and given her a simple, observational task. Can a woman whose entire operating system is run by the logic of should possibly learn to see the bars of her own cage? Part 2. Elena returned to her workshop with a new, strange assignment. This closed the previous loop. She had found her mentor and her mission. The new loop of conflict began immediately. The task of noticing sounded passive, but it was the most active and confrontational work she had ever done. She kept a small notebook with her, and within the first hour, she had filled an entire page. "I should call my brother back. I should finish this project by tomorrow. I should eat a healthier lunch. I should be networking more. I should feel more grateful. I shouldn't be so anxious about money." The list was endless. It was a constant, low-level hum of self-criticism and obligation that formed the soundtrack of her entire existence. The shoulds were not just about big life decisions, they were in every tiny, mundane moment. Her internal conflict was a battle between her dawning awareness and the deep, unconscious habit of her own mind. The more she noticed the word, the more she felt its oppressive, energy-draining weight. She realized she was living her life under a permanent, gray sky of her own making. The external conflict arrived in the form of a prestigious and deeply tempting job offer. It was a full-time, salaried position as a senior archivist at the world-renowned Uffizi Gallery Library. It was a dream job for anyone in her field. It was security, it was prestige, it was a steady paycheck. It was also the ultimate should. Her well-meaning but pragmatic older brother, a lawyer, was ecstatic. "Elena, this is it," he said over the phone. "This is what you should do. It's the safe, smart move. You can finally relax. You can do your little artistic projects on the weekend. This is the answer to all your problems." His words were a perfect, external reflection of her own deepest fears and her own culturally conditioned desires. The offer was a beautiful, respectable, and perfectly logical cage. It was the epitome of a life lived by the rules of should. She brought her notebook and her conflict to Marco's workshop. She was overwhelmed. "The word is everywhere," she said, her voice full of a new kind of despair. "It's my entire operating system. And now, the world has sent me the ultimate this job. It's safe. It's what I'm supposed to want. But the thought of it feels like a beautiful tomb." Marco was working with a piece of deep, crimson leather, the color of a rich Chianti. He ran his hand over its surface. The world will always offer you a reflection of your dominant belief, he said. You have been broadcasting the frequency of should. So, the world has sent you a perfect should opportunity. It is a test, yes, but not in the way you think. It is not a test of your strength. It is a test of your awareness. He then gave her the next, more active step of the method. You have learned to see the anchor, he said. Now, you must learn to lift it. For the next week, every time you notice the word should, you will stop. You will take a breath. And you will consciously, deliberately, replace it with a different word, could. Not, I should take the job, but, I could take the job. You are not making a decision. You are simply introducing the possibility of choice. You are changing the grammar of your own reality. She has been given the first tool of a new language, a simple word that promises to transform obligation into possibility. But can this one subtle shift in language possibly be powerful enough to compete with the immense real-world pressure of a perfect job offer and a lifetime of conditioned belief? Part 3. Elena's life became a quiet, constant practice of linguistic alchemy. The Uffizi job offer had a deadline, a month away, which created a container of pressure for her experiment. The loop of her passive observation was closed, and a new, active loop of conscious replacement began. The practice of replacing should with could was subtle, but its effects were profound. I should finish this restoration by Friday became I could finish this by Friday. The feeling shifted from one of frantic, anxious pressure to one of calm, sovereign choice. It opened up other possibilities. I could ask the client for an extension. I could work on it this weekend if I feel inspired. The word could was a key that unlocked the prison of the binary, all or nothing thinking that should had created. This internal practice was mirrored in the sub-trauma of her work. She began to work on the damaged book under Marco's gentle guidance. He was not just teaching her a technique, he was teaching her a philosophy. The flaw is not an enemy, he said, as he showed her how to carefully lift the damaged leather. It is an opportunity. The book is asking for a new story to be told at this spot. It does not want to be just repaired. It wants to be transformed. This was a perfect metaphor for her own life. The flaw of her financial struggle was not something to be just fixed, but an opportunity to be transformed into something more beautiful and authentic. Her relationship with her brother, Luca, added another layer of complexity. He would call her, pushing for a decision on the Uffizi job, his arguments always logical, loving, and deeply rooted in the world of should. Elena, you should think about your future, your pension, your security. Each call was a test of her new, fragile practice. She would find herself responding differently. Instead of getting defensive, she would say, I hear you, Luca, and I could do that. I am also exploring what else I could do. The shift in her language began to subtly shift the dynamic between them, moving it from a power struggle to a conversation. She was still terrified. The financial pressure was real. The Uffizi job was a powerful, seductive promise of safety. But the daily practice of could was slowly, gently, creating a new space in her mind. It was a space of possibility, a space where her own desire was allowed to exist without judgment. She was beginning to feel the difference between the heavy, leaden weight of obligation and the light, expansive freedom of choice. She has created a space of possibility with the word could. She has opened the door a crack. But she is still standing in the old room, just looking into the new one. What is the final step, the final word, that will give her the courage to actually walk through that door and into a new reality? Part 4. The deadline for the Uffizi job was a week away. Elena was in a state of profound limbo. The practice of could had shown her that she had a choice, but it had not yet given her the power to make it. She felt like she was standing at a crossroads, with one path leading to a safe, predictable, and soul-crushing life, and the other leading into a terrifying, unknown, but potentially beautiful wilderness. She went to Marco's workshop. The loop of her could practice was about to close. She felt she needed his final blessing, his final piece of wisdom. She found him putting the finishing touches on the restored botany text. He had not just repaired the scratch. He had transformed it. He had inlaid a delicate, winding vine of the purest, most brilliant gold leaf, a vine that seemed to grow organically from the wound, turning the scar into the most beautiful feature of the entire binding. "It is finished," he said, holding it out to her. It was breathtaking. It was a physical testament to his philosophy. "It's a miracle," she whispered. "No," he said gently. "It is a choice. I chose to see a possibility, not a problem. Just as you must now choose." He led her to his workbench. He took a fresh piece of leather and a set of beautiful, sharp tooling knives. "You have learned the word of possibility, could. It opens the door, but it does not walk you through it. For that, you need the word of power, the word of the Creator. Now, we will replace could with its master." He looked her directly in the eye. "From this moment on," he said, his voice full of a quiet, powerful authority, "every time you are faced with a decision, from the smallest to the largest, you will take a breath, and you will say the word choose. Not, I should take the Uffizi job. Not, I could take the Uffizi job. But, I choose. And then you will listen, in the silence, for what your soul wants to say next. Choose is the word of the sovereign. It is the word that declares that you are the sole, and only, authority in your own life. It is the word that aligns you with the creative power of the universe." In that moment, everything shifted. It was a quantum leap. A quote from Alan Watts, which had once seemed abstract, became a clear, operational truth. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. The word choose was the invitation to the dance. Elena stood there, her heart pounding. She looked at the beautiful, healed book. She looked at the sharp, creative tools on the bench. She took a deep breath. "I choose," she whispered, and then the rest of the sentence came, not from her anxious mind, but from a place of deep, undeniable truth. "To build my own dream." The declaration landed in the room with the force of a physical event. The war was over. The anchor of should was not just lifted, it was vaporized. She felt a surge of clean, powerful, and joyful energy that she hadn't felt in years. She had just spoken the most powerful word of manifestation in the universe. She has the word. She has made the choice. She has declared her own sovereignty. But this is an inner declaration. How will this new, powerful frequency translate into the outer world? What will be the first, tangible creation of a woman who has finally chosen herself? This profound linguistic shift has sparked a new choice for you? Subscribe for more stories that give you the real tools to become the sovereign of your own reality. Part 5. The decision to choose was a seismic event in Elena's inner world. The previous loop closed. She had found the word of power. Now, the consequences of that power began to ripple outward. Her first act as a sovereign creator was to call her brother, Luca. She didn't call for advice or validation. She called to inform. "Luca," she said, her voice calm and full of a new, warm authority. "I wanted to let you know that I've made my decision. I've declined the Uffizi offer. I am choosing to build La Legatoria d'Oro." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end, and then he started to argue, to bring up all the shoulds. But this time, Elena did not engage in the debate. She simply listened with love and held her center. "I know it seems risky to you," she said gently. "But it is the truest choice for me. I am not asking for your permission or your approval. I am just sharing my joy with you." The shift in her energy was so profound that it disarmed him. For the first time, he was silent. "Okay, Elena," he said finally, a note of bewildered respect in his voice. "I don't understand it. But I support you." The next consequence was her relationship with her work. The following morning, she walked into her workshop, and it was a different space. It was no longer a place of struggle. It was a kingdom, and she was the queen. She looked at her dwindling supplies, her modest tools, her list of small, low-paying jobs. The old Elena would have felt a wave of panic. The new Elena felt a surge of creative power. "I choose to see this not as lack, but as a blank canvas," she said out loud. She made a radical decision. She finished the few jobs she had, and then she cleared her schedule completely. She decided that for 1 full month, she would not accept any work that did not align with her new vision. She would only work on one single project, a creation of her own, a testament to her new philosophy. It was a terrifying, illogical, and deeply empowering choice. She was choosing to create a vacuum, a space for the abundance she was now choosing to receive. She has made a series of powerful, sovereign choices, clearing the space for her new reality. She is standing in a self-created void, armed only with her tools and her new, unwavering belief system. But a vacuum is meant to be filled. What will the universe, responding to this new, clear, and powerful signal of choose, send to fill this space? Part 6. The month of the sacred pause was Elena's ultimate test. It was a month of no income, of dwindling savings, of profound and terrifying trust. This was the dark night of her new philosophy. The voice of should, the ghost of her old reality, came back with a vengeance. You should be marketing. You should be networking. You should be panicking. You are a fool. You are choosing to be broke. She consolidated her growth by turning her entire life into a practice of conscious choice. She would feel the fear, and she would say, "I see you, but I choose peace." She would feel the urge to frantically search for clients, and she would say, "I feel the impatience, but I choose trust." She was not suppressing her fear, she was meeting it with a more powerful, more conscious choice. Her one, singular project became her anchor. She decided to create a single, bespoke, hand-bound edition of Dante's Inferno. It was a symbolic choice, her own journey out of the hell of should. She used the very best material she had left, the finest crimson leather, real gold leaf, paper that felt like silk. She poured her entire being into it. The work was not a struggle. It was a joy. It was a moving meditation on the power of choice. She was not creating a product to be sold, she was creating a physical, tangible embodiment of her own transformation. As she worked, she noticed something miraculous. Her creativity, once a small, tentative trickle, was now a flood. Ideas for new designs, for new techniques, for the layout of her dream gallery, came to her with an effortless grace. By choosing to focus on one, perfect, soul-aligned creation, she had unlocked the entire universe of her own creative potential. She was becoming a magnet, not by raising her vibration, but by clarifying her choice. She has survived the void. She has created her masterpiece, a testament to her new self. The book is finished, a thing of breathtaking, soulful beauty. But it sits alone in her silent workshop. A choice has been made, but a creation must be met by a creator's world. Who will see this masterpiece, and will they understand the story it tells? Part 7. The Inferno was complete. It was the most beautiful, powerful, and authentic thing Elena had ever made. The loop of her sacred creation was closed. The final loop, the one leading to her manifestation, opened not with a plan, but with a choice. "I choose for this book to find its perfect home," she said to the quiet of her workshop. She did not send photos to galleries or collectors. She did something much simpler. She placed the book on a beautiful velvet-draped stand in the window of her small workshop, with a single handwritten card that told the story of its creation, the story of should versus choose. For a week, nothing happened. People would pass by, admire the beautiful object, and move on. Elena felt no anxiety. She had made her choice. She had created her offering. She was at peace. The synchronicity arrived on a rainy Florentine afternoon. An old, elegant man, walking with a silver-handled cane, took shelter from the rain under the small awning of her workshop. His eyes fell on the book in the window. He read the small card. And he stood there, completely still, for a full 10 minutes, oblivious to the rain. He then opened the door and entered her workshop. He was Alessandro Vescovi, a name Elena knew with a jolt. He was one of the world's most reclusive and respected collectors of rare books, a man known for his impeccable taste and his almost mystical understanding of the soul of a book. He did not ask the price. He did not inspect the craftsmanship. He looked at Elena, his eyes full of a profound and startling intelligence. "Tell me," he said, his voice quiet and powerful. "Tell me about the word, choose. The perfect guardian for her creation has arrived. He is not just a buyer, he is a connoisseur of the very philosophy she has just embodied. This is the meeting she has been preparing for her entire life, even without knowing it. Can she transmit the power of her journey to this man, and what will he choose to do with it?" Part 8. Elena looked at Alessandro Vescovi, and she did not see a wealthy collector she needed to impress. She saw a fellow soul who understood the sacredness of stories. The old Elena would have been a nervous wreck. The new Elena felt a profound sense of calm. She had chosen this moment. She told him everything. She told him the story of the scratched botany text, of Marco, of the Uffizi job, of the constant, grinding weight of should. She told him of the alchemical power of replacing it with could, and then, finally, with choose. She was not giving him a sales pitch. She was sharing her testimony. She was telling him the story that was bound into the very leather and thread of the book in the window. He listened with an absolute, unwavering attention. When she was finished, he was silent for a long time. "For 50 years, he said, his voice full of a quiet, resonant emotion, I have collected the most beautiful books in the world. But I have never before met a book whose story is as beautiful as the object itself." He then made her an offer that was so far beyond the scope of her dreams that she almost couldn't comprehend it. "I am the curator of the Biblioteca Invisible, the Invisible Library," he explained. "It is a private collection, funded by a trust, dedicated to preserving not just books, but the art of the book itself. We have been searching for a decade, for a new master artisan to become our artist in residence and the director of our new, state-of-the-art restoration studio here in Florence. We were not just looking for a technician. We were looking for a philosopher. A soul." He gestured around her small, humble workshop. "This," he said, "will be your new home. We will acquire this entire building. We will build your dream studio, your La Legatoria d'Oro, right here. You will have an unlimited budget for materials, a small team of apprentices to teach, and a single mandate, to create beauty and to follow your own sovereign choice in all that you do. The Inferno will be the first piece in our new collection." The promise of the introduction was fulfilled. The word should had kept her broke, a servant to a reality of lack. The word choose had made her a sovereign, a queen in a reality of such profound, joyful, and aligned abundance that her old self could never have even conceived of it. The manifestation is complete, a reality more grand and more perfect than the original dream. But what is the true, lasting impact of a life built entirely on the foundation of conscious, sovereign choice? Part 9, La Legatoria d'Oro, opened a year later, and it was a beacon of light in the world of art and craft. It was a place of breathtaking beauty, but more than that, it was a place of profound peace and joyful creation. Elena was not just a master restorer, she was a master of the art of living. She guided her apprentices not just in the techniques of bookbinding, but in the philosophy of choose. She taught them that their state of being was the most precious material in the workshop. Her own life was a masterpiece of her own design. She found a deep, soulful love with a man who was a musician, a man who understood the harmony of a life lived in alignment. She healed her relationship with her family, not by conforming to their shoulds, but by becoming a living, breathing testament to the joyful, abundant power of her own choices, which gave them the courage to begin to make their own. She had learned the ultimate secret. Should is the language of the conditioned mind, a word that always implies that the power is somewhere else, in the past, in the future, in the expectations of others. Choose is the language of the sovereign soul, a word that declares that the power is right here, right now, within you. It is the word that transforms you from a passive victim of your reality into its active, joyful, and infinitely powerful creator. Her journey has created a new legacy, not just of beautiful objects, but of a beautiful way of being. But what is the next creation for a soul who has learned to be the master of her own choices? We see Elena a year later, in her magnificent new studio. She is standing before a group of her young apprentices. They are not working on books. They are all holding a small, blank journal. Today, Elena says, her voice full of a warm, joyful wisdom, we will not work on the stories of the past. We will begin the story of our future. The first chapter is very short. It is only one word. And that word is, choose. She smiles, as she watches them pick up their pens, their faces full of a new, bright, and limitless potential. She learned that the most powerful form of abundance comes not from what you think you should do, but from what you know you must choose. What should in your life is waiting to be transformed into a powerful, liberating, I choose. The word, should, is a subtle prison. It is the anchor that keeps your ship of dreams tied to a harbor of obligation and quiet desperation. The word, choose, is the key that sets you free. Your challenge is this. Take one, single persistent, should from your life. The one that feels the heaviest. For 1 week, your only task is to consciously replace it. Every time you think, I should exercise, stop, breathe, and say, I choose to energize my body. Every time you think, I should save money, stop, breathe, and say, I choose to build my wealth. This is not just a change of words. It is a change of worlds. What is the one, should, you are committed to changing this week? Declare your new choice in the comments below. For more stories that will help you dismantle the linguistic traps that block your abundance and step into your sovereign power, make sure you subscribe and join this community of creators.